Nicholas, 6'2", broad-shouldered and well-built, was considered one of the most handsome men in Europe. It was rumored at court that Nicholas wore padding underneath his uniform to look more imposing, but his private doctor said this was not true. The emperor simply had a very broad chest. In public, he did not relax for an instant. His appearance was immaculate at all times. It's no surprise that Nicholas I became the role model for all future Romanovs. The emperor brought a sense of calm and stability to Russia in an uncertain age. Contemporary newspapers depicted France as an exploding bottle of champagne, while Russia was a bottle of vodka without a bubble in sight. It was a reference to the explosive revolutions sweeping across Europe in the 1840s. Only Britain, the Netherlands and Russia escaped unrest. Nicholas's 30-year reign was the most stable period in the history of Tsarist Russia. Nicholas devoted himself to matters of state. No important document crossed his desk without some comment from him. His own office, the Imperial Chancellery, became the hub of government. The first section of the Chancellery was responsible for preparing imperial decrees and monitoring their implementation. The second section worked on the codification of Russia's laws into a single text. The third section was in charge of police surveillance, censorship, tracing counterfeiters, and investigating serf complaints against landowners. The fourth section, or the Office of the Empress Maria, worked on charitable projects, including shelters, hospitals, and women's education. The fifth section worked on reforms of the serf system. The notorious third section of the Imperial Chancellery effectively served as the Tsar's secret police. Its mission was to gauge the political mood for him and to expose any conspiracies against the regime. It had a permanent staff, however, of just 36. It was led by a hero of the Napoleonic Wars and close friend of the emperor, Count Alexander von Benkendorf. He also headed the Special Corps of Gendarmes, who served as a uniformed security police with a strength of 4,000. The prestige and authority of the Corps was very high. It's no coincidence that a gendarme appears in the famous final scene of Gogol's play, The Government Inspector.
Mark a trap point for your team. You'll lead them in.
Gogol's satire only avoided being banned thanks to the emperor's personal intervention. Though remembered as a great reactionary, Nicholas saw no harm in such an amusing play. One of Nicholas's first acts after his coronation was to end the exile of the great Russian poet Alexander Pushkin. The emperor even exempted Pushkin from the normal channels of censorship, promising to vet his works personally. Pushkin dedicated 9 poems to Nicholas, while the emperor intervened on a number of occasions to get Pushkin out of trouble, even paying off his debts worth the equivalent of several $1 million. In 1837, another great Russian poet, Mikhail Lermontov, was transferred from his Guard Hussars regiment to a unit fighting in the far south, in Russia's endless Caucasian War. The conflict had begun 20 years earlier, in 1817, when the Russian army invaded the northern Caucasus during the reign of Alexander I. The war ebbed and flowed until reaching a new crescendo in the 1830s, when Imam Shamil led Chechen and Dagestani warriors in a jihad against the Russian invader. The fighting dragged on for another 30 years, until Russia was finally able to impose its rule on the northern Caucasus. By the 1850s, a European coalition was forming against Russia, alarmed by the expansionist foreign policy of the Russian Empire. Under Nicholas, Russia had won wars against both the Persian and Ottoman empires, and its growing influence in the Eastern Mediterranean and Central Asia was seen as a threat to British and French imperial interests. In 1853, fighting broke out around the Black Sea, leading to what became known as the